I've got this Bell Merit here, this digital multimeter that I invested in probably 10 or 12 years ago. And honestly, it's just been running solid with a 9-volt rechargeable battery. I've done everything from volts to resistance. Obviously, most common is continuity. Done my share of AC, and I've done the capacitor tester a couple times and stuff like that. And haven't used the amp meter too much these days because I haven't gotten into my personal electronic projects and stuff like that. But right now, it's just it's been super freaking handy. It was worth the what was it, like 80 bucks that I spent on it, and I've been running solid. Just been doing everything that it needs to do with some really nice connectors and stuff, and this extra utility freaking shield case to protect it will stand, or you could mount it on a wall and stuff. But yeah, this DX405 freaking solid. I never could talk myself into getting rid of this thing. Have to be a sad day that I need some money to get rid of this thing. Anyway, we're just going to play some Morse code. So I'm just going to reach into the connector here. We're just going to stick one end right against the pin. And okay, so that should be the ground. Is that the black side? Yeah, that's the black side. All right. So now we have the black and green. And we just want to make sure this other lead is not shorting out to ground, which would be pretty sucky. All right. Yep, so right now, that lead is not going to ground, which is good. We got the ground going to ground. Okay, but the other lead's not going to it. I'm gonna cut this harness back just a little bit more, just to see if I can check it. Then honestly, I don't have the gas tank, but I should hook up this battery and just turn on the electronics and see if I get a voltage from this thing. I should also be reading my service manual and going through that and doing some homework before I'm jumping into this, but I'm just trying to take care of some basic, you know, they always say start out with your simplest tests, you know, just to make sure that you're not going into something too complicated and digging yourself a big hole. It's always good to start out somewhere simple. Anyway, I don't need to wrap that back up, actually. Just need to get back to 20 volts DC. And then battery. Let's see. Alright, come on, what did I do with that? Yeah, I do this to myself every once in a while. Gotta love it. Alright, I can't freaking for the life of me, I can't remember. Tripping over myself here. I can't remember. I don't know how that got there. Lithium grease on the windshield. Got a bunch of these lying around, luckily. I also rigged up this little custom connector here, just with the fuse, so that if I need to put the battery on a battery tender, just plug that right in and clip it into any kind of electronic source for charging if needed. Because, you know, all my charging options don't necessarily come with clips. The battery tender I have, or the only charger I currently have right now, has these little O-ring clips. And so basically this just makes it easier to alligator clip to anything. It's kind of nice. Also, going to start rigging up, maybe get some kind of like octopus deal going in here so I can run from this wire setup an actual like DC car charger. I just need to be able to charge my phone. I want to get a mount, but you know, there's really tight space up in here. But I want to figure out how to get my phone on this system somehow. Maybe I've got a couple of 3D printers, so maybe I can actually 3D print something that fits in here and creates a bar that allows me to rest something right there. I've got a friend who's been getting a lot of stuff together, helping kids out, you know, and getting a bunch of machines going. Took up a teacher job, and so he's got access to a lot of things. We could probably figure something out and get a little rig there going so I can have a utility mount, just, you know, something that actually gets me space for devices. That's the side story. We don't need that connected right now. Just need to get power on. Need to get my power on. All right. Okay, so now we're on 20 volts because it just goes 220 or 200 milliamps, but or I mean millivolts. But right now, obviously, we're dealing with between 2 and 20. We're going to test the battery really fast, and I don't like that. 11.8 volts right now without a charge. Let's shut off the system just to make sure. This is probably pulling extra. I want to see above 12, obviously. So 12.3, 3.1. Alright. So it appears as though the battery's getting charged, but again, you know, ghosts in the machine. Gotta freaking get the ghosts out of the electronics and the gremlins out of the mechanics. And that's, yeah, that's all on itself. Something else. Okay. Alright. So 11.6. That means that doesn't matter which side I connect because it'll either give me a positive or a negative. I honestly don't like the way it looks at the base of this connector and the way it allows itself to wiggle around. It's hard to see right now, but as you wiggle the wires, you can see the pins wiggle, and that may just be causing my engine light issues where these pins wiggle and disconnect themselves in the connector. So I'd say probably the first step, besides going through everything, so the first step, you know, besides making my problems more difficult, would be to get a new connector on the gauge sensor there, and get a new connector on here, and see if that, you know, get something tighter, something more water resistant and stuff. But let's just see if we get a readout. So as you may notice, I do like my technicals. My mother started computers when I was 5 years old, and there's a certain, alright, 5 volts. That seems about right. One thing I don't like about the service manual is often they'll give you a diagram, but they don't give you kind of like a flow element of how many volts should be running through each one. I believe they have resistors and everything's listed, so I could just do my math, but you know, who wants to do math when you have a book that's supposed to, you know, give you a breakdown? It's the way life is, though. Alright, so we're just going to double check again. 5 volts. Come on. I often wish I had 3 hands at least, or 4. Come on, there we go. Get your butt in there. Okay, 5 volts. Honestly, for electronics that are running like things like sensors and stuff like that and whatnot, 5 volts is pretty standard. I mean, I'm not used to bike electronics. That's a whole new ballpark for me, a whole new playground. But that consistent 5 volts, you know, it's feeding electricity through the sensor. And before I installed the sensor, I tilted the tube and let the float slide up and down, and the continuity gave me an on at the top, and it gave me variables as it dropped to the bottom. Alright, just wiggling that around here, getting you guys a good sight, so it's time to get to nipping. Nip that thing in the bud. Once I'm done basically breaking into this, I'm going to rewrap it, and I'm going to see if I can seal up the way these come out, get them away from the gas a little bit more. Right now I did at least buy a couple of these handy LED lights from our local gross out. Call it, at least it's grocery outlet. It has some magnets on it. It's pretty nice. You can recharge, you get rechargeable batteries in there, but currently it's LED, and I'm just using the ones that are in here the way they are until they die, because, you know, don't like disposable batteries. Honestly, I besides corporate politics, still don't know why disposable batteries are in existence, but it's a two light variable, something like that. Has a dim function. But it's pretty nice, little swing out arm and stuff. I can hang it up, but it's been super handy. Darn. Okay. In some spots though, it's not the handiest, trying to get it to sit where you need to. I may secure this this regulator rectifier line with a zip tie, maybe to this guy right here, because it's fairly rigid and just sits there. I may work to secure the gas line. If I can't get a connector right now, I'll see if I can secure it with a zip tie so it's wiggling less. Because the bike's working fine. I clear the codes, it takes off the engine light, but then when I was out riding, going around a big loop, took me from Eureka up around back through to Blue Lake. It was a really nice ride, a little gravel here and there through, I'd say half of it, a third of it, but you hit the blue side, the Blue Lake side, and the pavement just smooths out, and it's just great twisties with very few private driveways. That's a big one. I like to go fast, but I don't like to go fast around private driveways, because who knows who's going to be popping out on that side. So honestly, I kind of feel like I need to get in here with a shorter pair of scissors, or some wire cutters maybe.
Just to make sure that I'm not cutting into any wiring itself. But you just gotta take your time and make sure you find an open spot. And you can clip along the wires, running together. Alright. Yeah, I got close on that one. No, sorry. Okay, I gotta cut it. That was definitely really close. Okay. Again, feels like I'm doing surgery. Just glad it's not a life form that's relying on me. Because if I miss a clip, I'm only creating more problems for myself. I'm not messing with anybody's life. Or, could be messing with mine. You never know. But, yeah, at least that's not looking too bad. Yeah, it smells like gas, but the tank hasn't been taken off enough for it to affect the integrity of the insulation. There's a freaking rat's nest in here. Oh, man. I decided to leave it in that way. Alright. The gas line is looking good. And again, it's giving me 5 volts and not grounding out to the frame. The ground is grounding out to the frame, which is good. That means the ground's good, and the voltage is consistent. And, I don't know what this one is for. This is probably the pump. Yeah, this has to be the pump.
Because I've got that big plate right over there on the side of the tank, and that right there, that holds the pump inside of it and stuff. But yeah, so far I'm just basically gonna get this oriented. So guys, at this point, I'm just gonna say the engine light coming on is a loose connector. It's just, this is too ratty right here and wiggling around, allowing the pins to wiggle too much. So I'm gonna see if I can invest in a much more like weatherproof like connector. You know, still get some dielectric grease in there. You know, so the grease fights the water, but still allows the current. Blah blah blah. There's a lot of experienced people who know this stuff, but I use these technical terms so you can learn along with me and just keep all this stuff in mind. It's always good to review videos just in case you miss some technical things. I'm certainly far from a pro, but I'm certainly far from a newbie and stuff like that. Well, I don't know how far I am from a pro. I'm probably closer to a newbie. Not entirely. I just need more confidence. That's the way it is. But basically, I'm gonna get, you know, just a little bit more of this tape out and just get buy some. Hey, I may use Gorilla Tape, right? Because at least that Gorilla Tape is really solid stuff. I have not been impressed. I mean, I've rarely been impressed with other tapes. I'm certain that somebody else could possibly recommend a tape, or a tape that's good for wrapping a harness. I honestly believe somebody's been into this before. There appears to be electrical tape down the harness, like somebody had it out before. I don't know if this is just factory. I don't know why the factory would use a thin, cheap electrical, and right now, for some reason, there is a separation in this sheath right here. Oh, it looks like somebody did get in here and had to tape something, maybe. But yeah, there's definitely a break in the sheath, like somebody needed to get into this section of the harness. And there's some custom zip tying stuff, and just some unconnected connectors that have a fingertip from a glove just zip tied around it. That actually may have been me, because that looks like those Raven type gloves that I use. It's been a while since I've been down here. But yeah, I need to go through my diagrams. It's one thing I love about service manuals, are the exploded views. You just get a diagram and it's all like, and you can see, you know, where all pieces line up, and I don't think they have some kind of exploded diagram or view for the harness. It's all pretty basic stuff, though. It's at least knowing your colors. That's the one thing the service manual gives you, is your wire colorings and where it's tied to the fuses. And yeah, at this point, let's start breaking into the cockpit. Alright, so I just got in here and did the Gorilla Tape option, just because that holds in there really nice and tight. And I actually brought the wires down so that it was away from this spot right here, where the gasket fall in, basically. Does give me a little extra length, but that goes up to the tank where it needs to, and this will still reach the bottom of the gas gauge sensor like it needs to. So that's back together. I'm just basically hoping to fix this. Let's get the focus. Come on! Alright, just fix this. Just funky. I could probably squeeze down the clips on the other side and get the make sure that those don't jiggle around and create arcing or a grounding issue, disconnection, reconnection issue that trips up the engine light. Because at this point, I'm not throwing any other codes except for that freaking gas gauge. Stupid gas gauge. Anyway, this is going to go back together. Stupid gas gauge. It's alright. I'm used to freaking gassing up and clearing my trip meter and keeping track of my mileage. And just be nice. Quick visual reference to have a gas gauge, but not crucial in keeping the bike running. So far, freaking just being my own freaking Triumph shop right now. Getting it all buckled down. Been keeping him running for the last 4 years, 5 years, I can't even remember. Time flies. Doesn't matter.